Embarking on my first trip to the grocery store after the coronavirus outbreak, I'm pumped up with anxiety. It's the same grocery store where I've shopped for years, but entering it is suddenly daunting. Will it look the same? What kinds of precautions are they taking to protect people from the pandemic? I picture cashiers in full hazmat suits, outfitted with face masks and helmets, with clear plastic face shields and latex gloves. They're probably taking customers' temperatures too, like they are in China. My imagination is fired up with images of overcrowded Italian hospitals, bursting morgues, and orderlies pushing sick patients on cots down New York City streets. But as the escalator deposits me unceremoniously at the grocery store entrance, the fanciful images evaporate. It looks pretty normal. Yet once I'm inside, clear indications of the virus make me stop. Posters that usually feature photos of the lush local farms where the store sources its produce, weekly specials, and a pitch for the in-house sushi deli now give detailed instructions on how to behave in these troubled times. Entry with a mask only. Keep 1.5 meters distance. Just in case you don't know how far that is, thick red lines taped to the floor mark this distance from the produce counters. I pull my mask from my purse and put it on, pushing my cart cautiously into the store. I head to the organic produce aisle, where my shopping tour always begins. Methodically, I fill bags with apples, bananas, grapes, and a few avocados, hoping they'll actually ripen for once instead of rotting instantly overnight. When my daughter's with me, she won't allow me to choose the avocados, because apparently my penchant for houseplant murder extends to vegetables. So far, so good. Pushing on to the coffee and bread aisles, I become aware of an atmosphere that is somehow quieter, but can't quite put my finger on it. Everyone is wearing a mask. Does that keep people from talking? Maybe that explains the unusual calm. Onwards I go, headed for cheese. Cottage cheese, cheddar, Gouda. I still feel guilty buying dairy products, since I used to be virtuous and vegan. So to make up for my downward slide, I buy cheese and milk exclusively from very happy cows, organically raised, hay-fed, and smiling, like the ones seen grazing off the sides of the Autobahn in the Alps. At least I think they're smiling. It's hard to tell from the distance. Also, they're cows. Not until I arrive at the canned goods aisle does it hit me why I sense an unusual quiet and calm atmosphere. It's not the masks, the stripes on the floor, or the admonishing posters. It's the people. For the first time in my life, at least my German life, which by now is the greater part of my existence, I'm experiencing shopping as a non-contact sport. This is due to the fact that Germans have a completely different sense of personal space, consisting of approximately 1/20th of the area that an average American is accustomed to. I tried to change when I moved here, to expand my comfort zone, or in this case reduce it, but I failed miserably. I'm hardwired to need space, in large amounts. I grew up watching Bonanza, The Waltons, and Star Wars. The real Star Wars. Not those silly new ones, the remakes. Or was it prequels? Isn't that the name of a sweetener, anyway? Whatever. All of these shows and movies clearly demonstrate just how much space Americans need between themselves and the rest of the world. A lot. We're talking deserts, mountains, and galaxies here. There's not enough red tape in the world to indicate how much we like to spread out. Seems perfectly reasonable to me. Imagine my state of mind when I arrived in Germany and was suddenly surrounded by bumping, pushing, shoving, line-cutting, butt-slamming shoppers. I discovered that I had turned into an obstacle in other people's way, always having to be on the lookout to clear out quickly, or pay the price in a pound of flesh. Merchant of Venice style. Remember those wildebeests that trampled Mufasa in The Lion King? Yeah, like that. What is this? I thought to myself. An entire store of rude beasts? No, it was an entire country. On one particular shopping trip, I decided to retaliate with the polite American's weapon. And I'm talking big guns here. The venomous, dirty look. I planted my feet apart, squinted ominously, frowned, and fixed my piercing gaze on the offender, only to discover that Germans don't speak glare. Go ahead, glare a hole in the wall all you want. They ain't looking. Believe me, I tried this often, in all variations, furiously furrowing my brow until it hurt, frowning more and more viciously, until my cheeks ached, and yes, in extreme situations, even exhaling loudly. That always worked for my mom with us kids, but somehow it leaves the Germans cold. Contrast my need to be surrounded by the Mojave Desert, the Sierra Nevada, or the Milky Way to feel comfortable, or as a very reasonable compromise, reached after much inner haggling, 1 meter in each direction, to the spatial perception of your average German shopper. Their sole concern is that you are standing in between them and that cut-price bottle of wine, so you'd better get out of their way now. They communicate this by bashing their cart into your rear end. Any expectation of an apology or even a mild acknowledgement of the bruise freshly under construction on your backside goes unnoticed. Your reaction to and thoughts about being hit by a cart are of no consequence. You came between a German and the product of their desire. If you can't figure out whose fault that is, go look in the mirror. This attitude prevails at the checkout counter, too, where things can get a bit more tense than in the pasta aisle. I once had an immensely gratifying gripe session with another American immigrant who explained to me how he dealt with a particularly pushy, quite literally, woman at the checkout counter. She was a plump, grandmotherly type, chomping at the bit to move her cart forward to unload her groceries. My American friend was in the line in front of her, so her natural reaction was to slam her cart into him. Exasperated, he turned to her and declared in German with an unmistakable, heavy American accent, "Meine liebe Dame, der Krieg ist vorbei." My dear woman, the war is over. It's worth taking a moment to savor the irony in this encounter. An American tells a German woman that the war is over at the checkout counter in a grocery store. The German woman was appropriately dumbfounded. From that point on, I sincerely hope she realized that her grocery cart, properly wielded, was indeed a fearful weapon that was not to be pushed lightly. So here I am now in the corona-gripped grocery store, delighting in the newly won free space that surrounds me. I develop a real swagger in my step, swooshing my way over to the pasta aisle. After a short sojourn there, I notice a man waiting patiently while I debate the virtues of a box of whole-grain penne rigate versus a bag of spirali. Waiting, patiently. Now there's a word combination that just doesn't get used often enough. I look slyly to the side to monitor the presence of the would-be pasta peruser. He's still standing there. I bask in the glory of the moment. Loaded up with pasta, I head jauntily to what has become the acid test during this pandemic, the toilet paper aisle. Unhindered by any little old cart-shoving ladies, I casually pop a 10-pack into my cart. It was the only one left. Next, I breeze to the baking goods aisle. Since everyone seems to have turned into an amateur baker since the outbreak of the pandemic, there are only scant traces of flour on the shelves, but no actual bags of it. I do need salt, however, and spread out my elbows to take up as much space as possible as I grab a box of it. Because I can. There's nobody next to me. Over the past 30 years of living here, I have unsuccessfully tried to accommodate Germans' smaller sense of personal space. I've closed my eyes and earnestly tried not to care when suffocating in a crowd, or when smelling the cigar breath of the pot-bellied man standing behind me in line. What an odd turn of events that it would take the outbreak of a world pandemic to keep people at bay. Should have thought of that sooner. I'm going to enjoy it as long as it lasts, especially since the grocery store is pretty much the only place I go regularly these days. I've rediscovered the joys of pushing my cart around like I'm in a grocery store and not a racetrack. At last, I feel relaxed, unhurried, and right at home. If you enjoyed the podcast, why not leave a comment or forward it to a friend? And in any case, thanks for listening.